I went to Yale Drama School, where I took playwriting, and I knew John there, as a matter of fact, John Fred, and came to New York and got a job in advertising, and they picked up a play that I'd written in school to do on the Steel Hour, and then I started doing Steel Hours and various other nighttime shows that were being done then. And then they all moved to California. And so I luckily got a job on a soap, writing with a man who became a great friend of mine named Don Ettlinger. And we worked on 3 or 4 soaps together. Love of Life was the longest. And I was his so-called second writer. And then I got my own show and went out to California. It was called Never Too Young. And from that, ABC liked what I did on the show, so they recommended me to Dan for Dark Shadows to come in after the first 13 weeks. There was another writer, Art Wallace, was contracted for the first 13 and was leaving, and they needed somebody else to come in. And they recommended me, and I went in and interviewed and got the job. What we did back then that they don't do anymore was that we structured everything to build to Friday. Friday was the big day when there would be a big cliffhanger of some sort. And so you would structure the entire week around that large event that would happen, whatever it was. And so it was, I don't know, kind of formulaic in that we would have so many characters and a couple of stories going. We worked from something they called the Bible then, which would be a long story projection for a year or 2 years. And we'd figure where we were from week to week by the Fridays. And that was pretty much the format of the way they were written. And when I went to work for Dark Shadows, it was pretty much like an ordinary soap. It was a little bit different. But then Dan decided very early on to step up the pace and make every day Friday. And so, I mean, it was a little more difficult to plot, but it was much more exciting because you had much more going on. So every day had a cliffhanger of some sort, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it more than anything else I've ever done in terms of writing for television. The big change came, and it was thanks to Dan, I must say. We were trying to figure out, after one story was over, dealing with Burke Devlin and Vicky. When that was over, there was a subplot that was going to come up about Roger being in a fight for custody of David, and it was strictly routine. I mean, the custody case was a staple of soaps at that time, and that's when we were all sort of bored with the whole idea. And one day, Dan said, I must say to his credit, she's dead. And I think that's when the whole show changed. It wasn't when Barnabas came in. Barnabas came in with, when we were trying to top Laura, actually. But when we decided Laura was dead, the show became so much fun. I mean, suddenly we had this woman from another place, and it was fun, and it was spooky, and I don't know, we had a good time doing it. And it went on much longer than we thought it was going to. It was only scheduled to go on for a few weeks. I mean, it was the fight over the custody of David. So instead of the fight of custody over David, Laura, his mother, was trying to take him back to join her, and of course that was a whole other thing, and it introduced the element of spook, which is what we used to call it, and there was one little hint of it one time before that. They had done some shooting early on around the house, which turned out to be the old house. And Catherine Lee Scott had put a veil over her face and was running in and out of columns. And I just loved that. And I thought, this was my idea. I thought, can we please have a little spook? Can we suggest? I think there was a thing about Matthew threatening Vicky or something. Could we go to the old house and see this supernatural figure running in and out of the columns? And we did, and it was wonderful. It was very liberating. And I guess that was really the first intimation that we were going to have. But Laura is Dead was when we really turned the show around, and then we didn't know what to do to top it, and Dan said in the Bible there was also somebody coming in trying to get hold of the Collins business, which made everybody yawn, but we decided he would be a vampire. And that was Dan's decision. I must say, it was a wonderful decision. I loved it when he said it. But anyway, that's when we started along that path. Diana Malay played Laura, the mother of David, who was back to get him to join her in the netherworld, wherever she lived. And Diana brought a great feeling of kind of eeriness to it that I thought was wonderful. I thought it was quite real, and yet there was something a little off about her. And I loved it. It was a joy to write for. And it's funny because Diana had done a television show of mine where she played the Southern Bride of Ed Begley. And I was sure she came from the South. I was absolutely positive she did when she came in. And I mean, she was so convincing. I thought, oh, that Southern girl.